Hello. Good morning, my dear kids. I am Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. I am an English story writer. Today I have came here to tell the story of the little prince. My dear kids, if you are new to this channel, please subscribe and share with your school friends. Okay, let's start the story. Once upon a time, there was a little prince who lived on a teeny tiny planet. The planet was so small that you could walk around it in just a few steps. The little prince had a lot of free time on his hands, so he spent most of his days taking care of his 3 volcanoes and his one and only flower. One day, the little prince decided he was bored and wanted to go on an adventure. So, he packed his bags, hopped on his spaceship, and set off into the universe. The little prince visited many different planets, and on each one, he met some very strange characters. He met a king who claimed to rule over everything, but didn't actually have any subjects to rule over. He met a man who was so full of himself that he couldn't stop talking about how great he was. He even met a businessman who was so obsessed with counting stars that he had forgotten how to enjoy life. But no matter where he went, the little prince couldn't find anyone who was as interesting or as special as his flower back home. He missed her terribly and decided to head back to his planet. Along the way, he met a pilot who was stranded in the desert. The pilot was very surprised to see a little prince flying through space, but he was happy to have some company. The little prince told the pilot all about his adventures and the strange characters he had met. The pilot listened intently, but he couldn't help but find the little prince a bit funny. "Why are you so small?" he asked. "And why are you wearing a suit?" The little prince just shrugged. "I don't know," he said. "I guess that's just the way I am." As they flew through space, the little prince and the pilot came across a planet that was covered in garbage. The little prince was horrified. "Who did this?" he asked. The pilot explained that humans were responsible for the mess. The little prince was very confused. "Humans?" he asked. "What are humans?" The pilot tried to explain, but the little prince just couldn't wrap his head around it. "So, they're like us, but they make a lot of garbage?" he asked. The pilot laughed. "Yes, that's one way to put it," he said. When they finally arrived back on the little prince's planet, he was overjoyed to see his flower again. She was just as demanding and temperamental as ever, but he loved her all the same. The pilot was amazed by the little prince's love for his flower. "You really love her, don't you?" he said. The little prince nodded. "Of course," he said. "She's my flower." The pilot couldn't help but find it funny. "You know, most people don't love flowers that much," he said. The little prince just smiled. "I know," he said. "But I'm not most people." And so, the little prince continued to tend to his volcanoes and care for his flower. He may have been small and a bit funny, but he knew what was important in life, and that was all that mattered.